All right, guys. Welcome to our 11 o'clock talk at track 5. Make sure you're on track 5. This is a very popular talk, obviously, and we have a great guy who came in from London for you guys. And this is his first talk, so that means that you guys better give him a good round of applause. And he was afraid that no one was going to show up. I'm like, don't be a douche. But anyway, thanks for coming, guys. Thanks for making to today. This is for DEF CON. We all appreciate you guys showing up. It makes us a better group and makes, the conference better. And still tell your friends to come by because the more people know about DEF CON and what we do, and it makes the whole community better. I know it sounds so corporate, but, that's just true. All right, so this is Carl Miller. The talk is called Kill List Hacking and Assassination Sites on the Dark Web. Pretty dark stuff, but, the more the merrier. And here's Carl, all right?
All right, well, everyone, thank you so much for coming. At the outset, if the clue wasn't in the name, I'm going to be talking about some pretty difficult material today. I'm going to be talking about people trying to have other people killed. I'm going to be making some references about domestic violence, about sexual violence, about kidnap. So I just want to be very, very clear, we're going to be going on a journey together, looking at some of the kind of darker, kind of more grotesque parts of the human condition. So it all started one dark, drizzly, very kind of London night, just before Christmas in 2016. I was kind of pushing past like these throngs of kind of Christmas shoppers, kind of slit wet pavements, and then finally into one of these terrible central London pubs. Far too many people, far too expensive beer, to meet someone that I'd never met before, a guy called Chris. And we were perched on the edge of this table, and there was a kind of elbow in my back. And then Chris, after about 10 minutes of talking to him, he kind of leaned over and said he had something to show me on his phone. Now, it was a video, and the video begins in kind of darkness. And then this kind of light flicks on, and you can kind of see that it says, gang member for Beast and Mafia on Deep Web, dedication to Pirate London, that's Chris's username. And then it goes back to darkness again, and the video goes on, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and then there's a flash, and you can see fire kind of racing away from the camera, and then a car is torched. And you can now see that same piece of paper, Pirate London, kind of eerily backlit by the sight of the burning car. Now, Chris should be standing next to me on this podium today. This is Chris. He's called Chris Monteiro. He can't be here. He couldn't get a visa to come to the US. But he says hello. So Chris is a hacker. He's a systems administrator by day, but a darknet investigator by night. And it was him that got sent that video because he was beginning to dig into some areas of the darknet that he was fascinated by. So Chris is really interested in cybercrime economics. He's especially interested in how kind of economic factors and forces kind of shape what the kind of criminal economy really looks like, kind of a system-wide analysis. And he's interested in how social reputation systems work. He was looking at how exit scams were working. He was interested in how kind of what happens after data breaches occur. But he was especially interested in the darknet. And rumors had whirled around the darknet for years, of course, that you could buy anything on the darknet. You could buy guns, and you could buy uranium. You could buy anti-aircraft missiles, and that you could buy murders. And so Chris began to dig into all of these kinds of things to work out, are they actually true? Can you buy all these things on the darknet? Can you get the red room? So he began to analyze this and try and work it out, and he began to write on Rational Wiki to kind of try and catalog all the kind of analyses he was doing, and was actually basically finding that you couldn't get a red room, that a secret government AI that has escaped called Cameo wasn't real either. And then, so he then turned to look at internet assassinations. And he wrote on Wikipedia and on Rational Wiki, and he basically said, look, the assassination markets on the darknet, they're not real. Like, the social reputation system doesn't work like that. You can't have a functioning assassination market. And he was writing about it, and then one day, an IP address from Romania started to vandalize his Wikipedia entry. And this IP address said, no, most of the assassination sites aren't real, but there is one site that actually is delivering assassinations. And he linked to it. This was the site. This was what the site first looked like when we first laid eyes on it all those years ago. Now, I know it looks like a site from the 1990s. It's trying to make clip art kind of look as dangerous as possible. But the offer that the site makes is a really serious one. I mean, the site is basically going, hey, we're the mafia, and thanks to the darknet and thanks to Bitcoin, we now have our own e-commerce portal too. So you can log onto this site, that's what they say, and thanks to the darknet and thanks to crypto, you can basically log in and have someone that you want murdered. So you go onto this part of the site, you'd fill out the order form, you'd give the name and address and photo and a pattern of life information of who you wanted killed, and you could then pay for the killing with Bitcoin, and the site purported to then deliver that murder. And Chris dug into the site, he tried to work out what was going on the site, concluded that Bisa Mafia 2 was a scam, and wrote about it on his blog, and that's why he got sent the video of the burning car. And so when I first started speaking to Chris, he was saying to me, scammers don't do this. Scammers genuinely don't torch cars. So we didn't know at this point whether Chris had stumbled on a genuinely serious organized criminal enterprise. But Chris decided that he was going to dig deeper. No one vandalizes a Wikipedian's Wikipedia page and gets away with it. They really hate that more, don't they? Hate that more than anything else in the world. So Chris was very triggered by having his site. So he was like, right, well, I'm going to go deeper into this site, not move away. So he went into the site, and he knew that he needed to actually work out how the site worked. So he needed to place his own kill order. Who could Chris target? Who could Chris load onto the site in order to work out how the site worked? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to say, Bob the Builder got it. He took out a hit to have Bob the Builder killed, and it brought Chris into the messaging system of the site. Now, this isn't a market where everything's being kind of openly kind of bought and sold. This brings you into a kind of one-to-one communications kind of back and forth with the people running the site. Not a single message. Actually, you can sustain a long, weeks-long, months-long conversation with the people running the site. And as Chris went into this messaging system, he realized something which I think probably changed both his and my life forever. He realized that in the messaging system, in the URL, there was a number. And when he changed the URL's number, he got a different message. I mean, this is astonishingly insecure given what this website was purporting to offer. So you'll all know, this is an insecure direct object reference. And what this allowed Chris to do, very straightforwardly, trivially even, was to do parameter tampering on the URL. So he very quickly, threw together a Python script, iterated all the messages. I mean, it literally chronologically numbered up. It didn't even randomize the numbers. So he knew that his number was the latest, and he knew how many messages there were on the site. And he iterated through them all and basically managed to exfiltrate kind of all the messages that had been sent into the site. But he continued to kind of poke around elsewhere and quickly then found that there was a misconfiguration with the Apache web server, which meant that the assassination site had open directories, which meant that the file contents were exposed. So the site that you can see there, that's a template subdirectory. This was loads of kind of pictures and things like that the administrator was loading onto the site. And in one of those directories, he was looking at all of these screenshots that the administrator of the site was loading on in order to actually build the website. Now, I'm sorry to say that I think probably accidentally, the administrator loaded a screenshot of his own desktop onto the site itself. So that is a picture of the administrator of the Hitman site's desktop, where he's trying to find the most secure-looking picture padlock for Bitcoin that he can find to stick onto the site. So I hope the irony of this isn't lost on anyone. The website administrator is trying to add legitimacy to his website by adding a big picture of a padlock, which Chris, having broken into the site, is actually watching him do because there is no site security whatsoever. The site was also not patched to prevent SQL injection. An earlier hacker called BRPSD from the Emirates had already kind of proven this on a darknet forum. So Chris basically used a SQL injection attack, popped a web shell on the server, got remote code execution, and then began to use that to traverse the content management system of the entire server. He then found, thanks to this, that there was an unused mailing component with another terrible misconfiguration. This one had the administrator's email and passwords in plain text in the site. So Chris merrily hacked into that again as well. So he got into the email of the person running the site. He used that to pivot into another email running the site, and then began to look at all the different services and all the different marketing which the administrator was actually using. He basically wants me to make clear at this point that he very, very thoroughly owned the entire site. I hope I'm getting that. Is that clear to people? Yeah. I mean, applause for Chris, right? I wish he was here. He stole the onion key. He exfiltrated all the data out of the server. He broke into the admin pages. He brute forced into the server status. And thanks to all of this, basically, we were able to build a picture as to what the whole kind of operation was looking like. And what we realized, this was not a single site. This was a sprawling empire. Now, we know the name, at least the moniker of the person running the site. He goes by Yura. Hello, Yura, if you are in the crowd today. There's a non-zero chance he is. So Yura's first problem was how to get users down into the site in the first place. How does he find his clients for an assassination site? And this is going to sound odd, but his most successful thing that he did was to create a hitman for hire comparison site on the Lightnet. So this is the comparison site, which basically says, hey, look, we know that finding a real hitman for hire site is a thorny, difficult process, and we need to help you navigate around all the different scams so you find the right one. Now, this site, if you Googled for years, if you Googled hire a hitman, this site was so SEO'd, it came up above the New York Times. This came the very top of Google. So God knows how many thousands of people were finding this particular site. And on there, it gave you some actually quite useful cybersecurity advice. It showed you how to get access to darknet, and it gave you the links to the one site, his site, that he was saying was legitimate, whilst warning you away from all of his competitors. So that's the very top part of that diagram. Then as people went down into Yura's empire, they hit a series of kind of assassination market sites that he kept recycling the brands of. Yura franchised the code base out and sold that to a bunch of other people who then began to run their own sites as well. And that was all connected to a whole fake darknet escrow service that Yura was also running, and was also connected to a whole scam as a service empire that he was running in the sidelines as well. Anyway, Yura is as bad at cybersecurity as he is amazing at marketing. He is an astonishingly inventive and ingenious marketer, I'm afraid to say. He was so clever that he ran a whole disinformation campaign on social media and on the internet to try and pressure the police to close down his own site because it was delivering so many murders. He was very, very, very conscious about ensuring that people when they casually Googled, would really get social proof that he was delivering murders. And then Chris built a kind of data exfiltration engine. So he croned scripting of the site. This was lurking secretly in the site, and every day it would basically be intercepting the new orders that were on the site, bring them into AWS Data Lake, putting that into an operational database and then an investigator database. And essentially for years, this ran in secret, lurking in the shadows of the site, making sense of all the different orders, which we would put together into specific dossiers, do crypt OSINT to try and work out which of them had payments attached to it, and basically Chris did this, build strings of conversations so we could work out what's going on the site. So this was all happening, and then Chris called me up again. So suddenly, these were flying into my inbox. If you've ever wondered what someone actually writes if they want someone killed, this is what they write. So this was one of the first orders. It was for a hit in Amsterdam, just under $2,000 US. There was a hit in Paris for $1.1 thousand. This person needs to go away. I want to set fire to her apartment. There was a big order in Slovakia, $14,000. Order in Hyderabad. They were all coming in, and some of them were kind of short and curt and clipped and forensic. And some of them were long, lurid, like month-long kind of conversations where it wouldn't just be about the order. They would be talking in a strange way to Europe about justifying why it was right that they wanted someone killed. And we put all these orders together, and we called it the kill list. And it is, to this day, by miles, the single hardest, most grotesque, difficult document I've ever had to read in my life. And it was getting longer all the time. And I realized, actually, I haven't introduced myself to you. So I am not a hardened crime journalist. I don't know if this is coming through, but I'm a very mild-mannered think tanker. And I was utterly horrified by the idea that these kill orders were basically coming in real time. So, but we pulled it together, and then the first thing that I did, which what would anyone would do, I phoned the police. So this was in the middle of COVID. The police came over to my house, and I laid it all out for them. I showed them the diagram. I took them through how the Bitcoin tracing was working. I showed them the orders, and I said, this is just so serious. You know, the police need to, we can tell you exactly how we've got into this site. You can replicate this. The police need to be intercepting all these messages. This was actually, if the audio works, this was that meeting.
If I'm being honest, and don't take this the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean this is in we have to just be a bit diligent when we get calls of this nature. We generally would always see if you've got case history or a history of mental illness or things like that.
Did you hear that? The police were over at my house because they were doing a wellness check because they thought I was having a breakdown. It was a mental health check on me, not on the site. And so it's a bit of a longer story, but ultimately the Metropolitan Police in the UK decided that this is a literal quote from the email they sent me, saying that they were not going to take up an active investigation into the site. They did say they would pass everything to Interpol, but that did not work at all. What Interpol did was strip all the information away from the site, all the information that we had disclosed, and then shoot often a very short kind of threat to life warning to someone, the local law enforcement team. And I should say that the reason the Met weren't investigating was basically these orders were spread all over the world. You saw, there was one in Paris, there was one in Slovakia, there was one in Hyderabad. No single police force saw that there was sufficient concentration of cases for them to really want to take this on. So we couldn't get anyone to really investigate it. But I knew that we couldn't step away from this. These people that were being targeted, I mean, one of the most difficult things really is when you intercept these orders, you also see photos. They always upload photos, of course. Like, you need the hitman to know what they look like. And they are almost always Facebook profile pictures. So these names that you see become people. They stare back at you. And people, Facebook profile pictures, people look nice. They're relaxed. They're surrounded by their family. You see people kind of twinkling with kind of happiness. You know, one of them, they were in Vegas. You know, others, they were on holiday elsewhere. And as they become people, I think that me and the other people that I worked with who were receiving these orders, we just didn't feel like we could look ourselves in the mirror if we didn't try and do something else. So we decided that I would contact them directly and try and warn them directly that someone was trying to have them killed. And so we worked ourselves up. We wrote a script. And we got ready to basically deliver, and I absolutely dreaded this. This was just the worst thing I've ever had to do. Kind of get ready to actually tell someone that someone out there, we don't know who it is trying to have you killed. We spent a week getting ready. We'd worked with the psychologists. And then finally we made this. This was the first call.
No, I don't want any information. I'm trying to give you information.
I don't care. No, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, thanks for your time anyway. Do give me a phone back if you'd like more information. Would we be able to arrange a time to be able to talk to you at greater length about that?
No, thank you.
Okay. So you don't.
I mean, I wasn't a hand grenade going off in their life. No one believed me. I mean, the story was so fantastical that every single time I got through to someone on the kill list, one of the people being targeted, and I tried to explain what was going on, they just hung up the phone. I was also extremely scared. One of the big things we were trying to solve for was that the person that had put them on the site would actually be with them when we made that warning. And we thought that might be a moment of really great danger if they realized that their kind of window of opportunity was closing. So the kind of warning that I gave them was often quite vague, as I tried to get them to often have a follow-up meeting with me, somewhere where they could choose and where they felt safe and where they were by themselves, so that I could give them warning more explicitly. But that didn't work. So we changed up tactics and we reached out and basically built this secret team of local journalists all over the world. This is the middle of COVID, so we couldn't travel. So local journalists all over the world were sent out to basically meet the targets of the kill list face to face. We knew where they lived. That was always part of the order. So they'd drive out and they would sit there and they would try and come up when the moment was safe, and then they would go and try and reach out and make the warning face to face and then bring them into a conversation with me. The first place that we tried to do this is here, in Zurich, in Switzerland, on the outskirts of Zurich. A woman called Elena was being targeted in her kind of mid to late 50s. And the local journalist, she drove out to the outskirts of Zurich, big blocks of flats, got out of her car, I'd been speaking to her, and then went to find Elena's house. And it was the longest, most nerve-wracking wait of my life. Like 10, 15 minutes went by and it was complete silence. And then suddenly we kind of got the message that she was in Elena's house and ready to talk. And Elena kind of popped up on a Zoom call. And it was so strange to see a woman that you'd only seen on a kill order suddenly blinking kind of quizzically at you, wondering what on earth you are doing. So for the first time, I was able to deliver the warning in a way that had a chance of actually being believed.
Sorry, there's no easy way of really saying this. We've come across some information which might mean that someone had put some information regarding you on the site.
I'm actually not really surprised.
Really? In what way?
I'm having an ugly divorce. It's going on for about 3 years now. So, you know, there's money involved, quite a lot of money, and my husband actually doesn't want to pay it. So, you know, I'm not really surprised.
I mean, she took that incredibly well. Elena is actually tough as old boots, honestly. Like she was that night. She was going to have dinner with the next door neighbor of her husband. And I could not convince her not to go. I was like, Elena, we've just warned you that your husband is trying to have you killed in secret. She's like, yeah, but you know, he's not going to do it. You know, he's not going to do it himself. And so she went and had that dinner. Now, what I told Elena was what I told all the other people on the kill list as well, which was if there were hitmen, they were the most incompetent hitmen on the face of the planet. So we weren't just seeing the messages being sent into the site, we were also seeing the replies coming from the administrators from Eura. And what we were seeing coming back was every time the hit was supposed to happen, well, shucks. They lost their weapon, or the hitmen got lost, or they had to pull out because the target was too well defended and a military trained team had to go in instead. Every single time the hit was never delivered, there was always an upsell. It was always, well, look, you know, yes, it hasn't worked, but for 3 more Bitcoin, we can get this done for you. So we knew that there weren't actually really any darknet assassins out there. It was clear to us from the very beginning that the site was not sending out actual hitmen. But the people using the site, of course, did not know that. They could be just as dangerous as any of the hitmen, and nowhere was that clearer than with Elena herself. So her husband that she mentioned, we went to the police after we spoke to Elena, and sometime later they arrested the husband. And when they did, they found that he was renting a secret room next to our house, right next to it. And in the room, there was a gas mask, a telescopic baton, an AK-47, GPS trackers, flick knives, a submachine gun, Glock 9mm pistol, zip ties, black plastic gloves, a rubbish sack, and for some strange reason, a mask of Recep Erdogan. So the people, who knows, but I think he was in some kind of quite serious stage of planning to kill her himself. So who were the people using the site? Who are these perpetrators? Who has put up this order to Wisconsin and paid, $2,200 for a white 5'5" male to be killed? Well, the target turned out to be a man called Travis Harper, and the perpetrator turned out to be Kelly Harper. So she's a go-getter, a hospital administrator, she's Travis's college sweetheart, an entrepreneur, actually, who once ran a children's service, an advice service called Mum to Mummy, and someone that was plotting to kill Travis Harper in secret as they became locked in a bitter years-long custody battle that had raged across the courts and the hospitals and the schools of Sun Prairie, Wisconsin. Who is putting this order in? Utah, $16,000. An order to have a couple of targets, husband and wife killed, that they quote, "I don't quite see eye to eye on something with," which I think is the understatement of the absolute century. The person that's placing this order is Christopher Pence. He's a Microsoft IT security technician. He's a father of 11 children. He's the adopted father of 5 more children. And from his large solitary house in a valley in Utah, this very religious man plotted to have the biological parents of his 5 adoptive children killed. This order wasn't for an actual killing. This was the largest order we saw, $60,000 US. It was for the target to be kidnapped, and I'm sorry, I did say there was some difficult material here. The target to be kidnapped and forcibly addicted to heroin. And the payment was the biggest we'd ever seen. And the user, who went by the moniker Scar215, actually laid out a bonus structure to incentivize other things to be done alongside the order. So if the target, Jennifer, permanently withdrew all court motions, if she returned to her husband, she injected herself daily with heroin, well, that's another $5,000 bonus. And the Scar215 signed off the order with "the husband does not know this is happening." Any guesses? The husband definitely did know this was happening. Ron Ilg is a neonatologist. He's a senior clinician. He ran a charity helping vulnerable women deal with addiction issues. He's also a man obsessed with controlling people, especially the women in his life. And when he landed in Spokane International Airport, he was met with a team of 14 FBI agents who were also going over his house. And in a thumbprint lock safe in his house, there was a small pink Post-it note. And on that Post-it note was a username, Scar215, and there was a password, Mufasa. He is in prison now, but he's trying to sell the rights to his life story, describing it as 50 Shades of Grey on steroids. And it wasn't just these. We began to work, actually, with the FBI strategically, kind of disclosing them to the FBI, who would then disclose them all over the world. And we began to see kind of case after case be investigated and then finally reach court. This was a love triangle in a Sports Direct in Milton Keynes, outside of London. We saw a case, a 26-year-old woman in Canberra, who we can't name for legal reasons, who pleaded guilty to trying to have her parents killed. At least in part, the prosecution said for financial reasons. There was cases in Nevada. There was cases in Galicia. There were cases in Tampa. There were basically cases all over the world. And as these cases kind of rippled out into courtrooms, that created another headache for us, because we were desperately trying to stay hidden. But each of these different police forces desperately needed us to try and prosecute the cases. So we began to actually come under greater legal pressure from police forces, where we said, if we go into a courtroom, we will have to divulge in public and in front of journalists how we are getting these messages from this site. And as soon as we do that, we can have the access to the site pulled. And some journalists began to try and track down and work out who it was that might be behind all these .NET assassination cases finally reaching court. But to give you all a sense of the scale here, over the course of the 3 years that we were doing this investigation, we disclosed 175 paid-for kill orders all over the world. And that's currently... Thank you. We've seen 32 arrests so far, 28 convictions, and 180 years of prison time being handed down. Now, Jura, the administrator. Well, there was a series of raids in Romania at the end of 2022. They never reached a courtroom. We don't know what happened. But shortly after these raids, which was a combination of DHS and Romanian counterterrorism, we were locked out of the site. But we have seen additional cases reach court. They look like our cases. It's the same investigatory tactics. It's the same crypt OSINT. It's the same tracing. But we had nothing to do with it. So if there is law enforcement in this room that was responsible for that, thank you. It took 3 years, but finally we could step away from the site, not being worried that this wasn't being taken seriously. And that's, of course, the only reason I'm able to talk about this now. So I'm now just, this is the very end of the talk, and I'm gonna say one final thing that I've never said in public before about all of this, and it's that I need all of your help. So we disclosed those 175 kill orders, but the reality is that of the messages and the cases that Chris intercepted over those years stand at more than 2,000. And there are hundreds and hundreds of kill orders so far that haven't been properly investigated, that haven't had the OSINT, haven't had the crypto tracing, and haven't really had any meaningful liaison with law enforcement. I mean, even in many of the cases where we handed over, I honestly think, slam dunk packages to law enforcement all over the world, we have not seen those convictions happen. So my final point is actually more of an ask. You know, DEF CON, if anyone here wants to work with Chris especially on these cases, to trace them properly, to investigate them properly, to warn the people properly, please, 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 email him, email me, get involved in go to pirate.london. And as this talk ends, hopefully maybe next year we can do another one where we can show that DEF CON can track some of these people down. So thank you so much, everyone. I really appreciate it.